Hey, it's Jamila, and I'm going live because I wanted to talk a little bit about this issue that so many of us high powered, driven, strong, successful women have, and that is with overthinking. And this can really be an issue because it's going to ruin the confidence that we feel. Now, yesterday, I went live to talk about, not really feeling like you had permission to be yourself, or dealing with people making you feel like you weren't allowed to be yourself, you weren't allowed to be all of who you are confidently, unapologetically. And so today I wanted to dig down into like one sliver of that, and that is how overthinking is actually something that can really sabotage your ability to feel confident. And so how I define overthinking is really when you are so concerned about doing everything right that you obsess over the minutia and all the details, and then end up failing to get into action because you're stuck in the planning mode because you don't want to take a step and have it be totally wrong. Now, I personally can totally relate to this, totally get it, because, I'm a person who has always had high standards for myself. And so I always wanted to make sure that I was doing things right, right on point, and really because I wanted to get them right the first time so I wouldn't have to do it again. So I wouldn't, make a mistake or whatever. And the fact is, that's just not reality. And so I know for me, this was obviously an issue in my business because it would get me to a place to where I wouldn't do something because I would feel like, well, I don't know if I have all the pieces, or I don't know if it's perfectly right or whatever. And I actually worked with a business coach at the end of last year through the beginning of this year who really helped me to get rid of that notion that I needed to get everything right. And it was funny. She goes, you're really smart and that's great. She's like, but it's also a problem because it means that you're constantly trying to figure it out and you just really want to do things right. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do things right. There's nothing wrong with, having a high level of standards or quality or whatever. But it can sabotage your success because it can prevent you from taking action. And so one of the ways that, another way I should say that this can show up is when we are overthinking what we've said or what we've done. We're Monday morning quarterbacking, all of our actions or conversations. I had a client and she came to me and she had the block that she didn't have a voice. And when we did our work together, it really narrowed down to, as a little girl, she was never given the opportunity to feel heard. Nobody listened to her. And so she carried that with her through life and constantly had this thing of where she felt like she didn't know how to communicate. She didn't know how to express herself in a way that people would respond to her positively. So she had internalized a lot of the negative feedback, like, oh, you don't know how to talk to nobody, or you're too blunt, or you're too this, you're too that. And essentially she just got to the point to where she just felt like she couldn't, express herself well. Like that's really what she thought because of all these things that she had been told, plus the underlying, belief that she had there around not feeling heard or seen. And so through our work together, we were able to narrow it down to that belief, nip it in the bud, reprogram it, and she was able to let that go. Because essentially what she was doing was browbeating herself over what she had said, replaying in her mind, almost getting stuck in a loop, okay? And so sometimes this can be an issue for us if we're the type of person who tends to overthink. So we can overthink what we've said and what we've done and obsess about it, even though we can't go back and change anything. There's nothing that we can do about it. But what you really want to understand is that this overthinking isn't just something that came from, oh, I just today decided to obsess over everything that I do. No. Again, the roots are always in childhood. Like I said, for my client, it was never feeling heard. For me, it was just really being an achiever. For me, that was something that allowed me to receive my parents' attention, of course, in a positive way. And I just pushed myself. And it also was linked to not feeling valuable or important or worthy of time and attention. And so doing the achievement, getting good grades, excelling academically gave me a feeling or a sense of having some type of value or worth. And so I've since worked through those blocks, but I most certainly can still connect and remember to what it's like to feel that way. And so usually when we're overthinking, it can be related to a lot of different things. Like I said, one can be never, feeling heard and then obsessing over one particular aspect of our personality or way of being. Another way it can come into play, or how it can play out when we get into adulthood, is that when we have a business, like I was just sharing the experience of you with my business, you are worrying about, is every word right, on your post, or is every word right on your video, or, all those types of things. And it's interesting because, when you're a business owner, when you work for yourself, you really have to be willing to take risks and put yourself out there and be willing to get it wrong sometimes. And that's really hard if you're the type of person who's always overthinking, because the reason why you're overthinking is because you're trying to avoid it being a mistake or doing the wrong thing. And here's what I want you to know and understand: if overthinking is something that you struggle with, is that, guess what? If you do get it wrong, like, we're not talking about life or death situations here. So if you get it wrong and you have a spelling error on a post, or you get it wrong and you say something silly on a video, none of that stuff is life threatening. You know what I mean? You're not going to all of a sudden crumble in fear and die because you made a mistake. Mistakes are opportunities to really learn and to grow, because I guarantee you this: when you make a mistake, you will always remember what it is that you did and really ensure that you never do it again. So it's really an opportunity to grow. But with the overthinking, it really, again, just boils back to that fear of making a mistake, that fear of getting it wrong. And I just want to let you know that it's okay if you get it wrong. It's okay. The world is not going to come to an end because you didn't do something exactly right. And by the way, right according to how you want it done. Because the funny thing about overthinking is, these are not standards that someone else has imposed upon you. These are standards that you've placed upon yourself for whatever reason. It could be that the laundry has to be done a certain way at a certain time, and there's no way around that. And if you don't do it right, then you failed. And if you can't do it right, then you're not going to do it at all. But then you're going to go do something else, and you're going to sit there and obsess about the laundry that hasn't been done and feel guilty and beat yourself up and say, oh, I'm so lazy. I'm so this. So do you see what I'm saying? So overthinking can go into so many different directions, but how it ruins our confidence is that you can't step out there as you if you are in the background constantly tearing yourself down and doubting yourself and telling yourself that you're not good enough, that you don't know how to do this, that you're gonna get it wrong, that you better not. You just have this really harsh, negative voice inside your head that's constantly, just relentlessly on your shoulders, breathing down your neck, making you feel as though you can't breathe, that you have to do everything according to this box or else. Okay? But it's the box that you made. You made the box. And so the good news is, because you made the box, you can get rid of it. Yeah, you can get rid of the box. You don't have to continue to browbeat yourself, beat yourself up, feel like you're a bad person, a terrible person, constantly question and doubt everything that you do so that you don't take any risks, don't go in any directions. And I'm going to tell you this too. Overthinking not only ruins confidence, But it can also cause you to manifest a different kind of a fear, not just fear of failure. Because here's the funny thing about failure. We know what that looks like, right? Fear of success, though, sometimes can get us and keep us stuck in inaction because we have been overthinking, oh no, what's going to happen if I become successful? Will I lose that? Will I lose this? And it's like, since when did success become synonymous with something negative? Doesn't success equal a good thing? Like, doesn't it mean you've achieved something? You've accomplished something. Now you have the ability to do more, to give more, to be more. You know, it's a positive growth and movement in a right direction. You know, granted, your motives are sincere and genuine and what you're actually pursuing is of a good nature. But if you're constantly, again, overthinking, then you're not going to be able to step out there and do what it is that you need to do to succeed as a business owner, as a coach, as an executive in your career. And so I just really want to encourage you to think about the box that you put yourself in. And I get it, you know, when you're a child, you internalize the things that, of course, your parents have taught you. Hey Jenny, hi. I was just talking about overthinking and how it can really ruin our confidence because we're just essentially tearing ourselves down, questioning our every move, second guessing ourselves, doubting everything that we say and do, and then we become afraid to take risks, afraid to make a move, afraid to try because we're so afraid that we're going to fail. When if we really are honest with ourselves, the things that we are so worried about doing wrong are not matters of life and death. They're just not. But we have amplified and magnified them so huge in our minds that we're stuck in inaction. And when we're stuck in inaction, then that means we're not progressing. And so if we can't progress personally, we're not going to progress professionally. And so it's all just full circle. And so I actually have a free masterclass coming up next Wednesday, June 30th at 7 o'clock. And it's called Who Am I Anyway? And we're going to be getting into this topic of really how to shift from fear into confidence, because it's so critical as a woman to be able to feel confident, especially because as women, we're so often shamed and made to feel guilty for expressing our opinions, our original thoughts. Being bold and confident is frowned upon. It's looked upon as though we're not being nice because we simply are sharing that which we're good at. And for those who are not self-aware and are not comfortable in their own skin, they want to flip that around and view it as, oh, she thinks she's all that, or oh, she's bragging, or this and that. And that's simply not true. It's no different than there's a difference between confidence and assertiveness. They're two different things. And being assertive, not confidence and assertiveness, assertiveness and being rude. Because sometimes people think that simply because you're being assertive, that's rude. And those words are not synonymous. Being assertive means expressing yourself in a way that creates a boundary, expressing your rights, whatever, your values. Rude is just is an attitude and a not caring, how your actions or words affect anybody else, and you almost deliberately want to be offensive. Hey, Krista, how you doing? So I'm glad I stayed on. I just kept talking, right? Because I'm like, at some point, somebody's got to hop on. But anyway, as I was saying, assertiveness and rudeness are two different things. But as women, we're made to believe and think that we're not allowed to be assertive, okay? That if we're assertive, if we state our opinion, if we have an original thought, that somehow we're being rude, or oh, we're loud, or oh, we're too much, or oh, this and that. And the fact of the matter is that's simply not true. And so what can happen over time is we begin to diminish ourselves. We begin to hold back. We begin to play small. We begin to overthink and obsess over how our words and actions are being received. And here's some facts. You have zero to no control over how someone else receives and perceives you. I'm going to say that again for the folks in the back of the room. You have zero to no control over how people receive and perceive you. That has to do with what's in them. So we all have our own filters. We all have our own set of beliefs. We all have our own way of seeing things. And so when we hear their words, when we hear their expressions, we're going to internalize that how we internalize that. Okay? And again, I'm not saying that there are some behaviors that are blatant, right? Yes, rudeness is real. People can be rude, but you're not, right? You're not being rude. Thank you, Jenny. And hey, Krista. So you're not being rude simply because you have an opinion, simply because you have a thought. And hey, I'm just gonna put it like here. If you're gonna have an opinion, ought you not think it's right? And if it's not, and you're willing to have a discussion about it, that's fine. But you don't have to pretend like you don't have a thought, or you don't have the expertise, or you don't have the knowledge that you can share to help solve a problem, because you don't want people to think, oh, she's a know-it-all, or oh, does she think she's in charge, or oh, this and that. See, this is all of the messaging and programming and gunk that gets heaped on us as women, that we somehow are not nice if we have a voice. And so, like I said, we shrink down, and then we overthink, and we worry about, oh no, did I say this? Did I do that? Oh no. And then it's like you're not even being yourself, because you don't feel like you're allowed to be yourself, because you receive so much negative feedback. And the feedback, and always remember this, when people give you negative feedback, consider the source. Is it somebody whose opinion? Is it somebody, who are they that you should care what they think about your life? You know what I'm saying? Because the women that I'm talking to, that I speak into, that are my clients, are good women doing good things, upright. You know what I mean? So they're not engaging in conduct or behaviors that maybe are questionable or things like this. So they absolutely can stand in their power, in their thoughts, in their personalities, in their ways of being, confidently, without the second guessing and the browbeating and the constant overthinking, because that's what'll get you every time. You'll talk yourself out of so many things. I know from myself personally, when you get teased a lot as a kid, you really, it's a great example of really shrinking back. And then you proceed to like pick up your own the mantle and go with it. So for example, I bowled like when I was I'm not talking about recently, but up to this story that I'm about to share. I had previously bowled maybe when I was like 7. So it had been years. But because I've always been kind of skinny, kind of weak, I didn't want to, now that here I am an adult, this is years ago. This has got to be, yesterday I was talking about a 20-year-old experience. This is a 20-year-old experience too. But my ex-husband, when we were together, went bowling with friends, and I decided that I wasn't going to bowl. Oh, I don't bowl. And the real reason why I was unwilling to bowl was because I was afraid, well, maybe I won't do it right. Or maybe I'll look stupid. Or maybe I'll get all gutter balls. Or maybe people will laugh at me. Or maybe people will make fun of me. Do you see what I'm saying? So I had put that on myself now. I'm overthinking bowling. Some people are like, that's not a big deal. But I didn't want to look stupid. Yes, very good, Jenny. Or shamed into thinking my voice doesn't matter because I was overlooked or my opinion didn't matter. So I had earlier shared an experience about a client. That was exactly her family situation. Okay. She was the oldest child, single parent, mom always gone working, really was not that into being the best mom. And she had to put her needs and things aside to care for her younger siblings. And she would see things going on that weren't right. And she would speak up and was always told to be quiet you talk too much, you say too much, until she eventually stopped speaking up. And when you're overlooked and when your opinion doesn't matter, sometimes you will get louder. Some of us get louder, and then some of us just stop talking altogether, and feel like, well, and we'll let other people speak up and feel like, well, I'm not going to share my thoughts or share my opinions because I don't want people to think I'm stupid or I'm going to sound dumb. We'll say, oh, I'm going to sound dumb, or they won't receive what I'm saying, so I might as well just keep it to myself. And so what I'm talking about really here in this video and the video I did yesterday and in my upcoming masterclass next week is giving yourself permission to speak. Who cares if they don't agree? And here's one for you. Who cares if they think you look stupid? Hey, they can think all they want. It doesn't matter, because you're not. You're not stupid, right? You know that you're not stupid. You know that you have a valid point of view. And so own it. You have a right to your own mind. And you don't have to acquiesce to folks who, just want to feel like they have something to say, or, you sometimes can find yourself being around people who have such low self-esteem that they operate from a place of arrogance or conceit, because arrogance and conceit are false pride. That's false confidence. It's not based in anything real. But you, as a woman of purpose who is doing her best to be the best version of herself, you absolutely have the right to feel confident in who you are. Not saying you're perfect, not saying that you're not continually on this journey of personal growth and self-improvement, because you are, right? But you are still allowed to enjoy and love and share the woman you are right now in this moment as she continues to grow and evolve and mature and etc. Okay? So sometimes when we're kids, our voice can be taken away. But now we're grown women. And so we get to give it right on back to ourselves. Do you feel me? Do you understand what I'm saying? So feel free to drop a comment, a question, anything in the comments. Because when I'm on live, I said I was going to try to stay on live and actually, interact more and not just go live and then, oh, bye, I'm done. So if you have anything, you can feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll respond. But I just want to encourage you that if you are someone who tends to overthink, who tends to obsess over the minutia of every little thing you say and do, trying so hard to make sure it's just perfect or just right before you execute and make a move because you're so afraid of failing or getting it wrong, I'm here to give you permission to go ahead and get it wrong. Get it wrong. Okay? Because as a business owner, especially, you're going to need to make some mistakes and do some things wrong to learn what to do right, to learn what will work for you, what will work for your business, okay? And in your personal life, especially in your relationships, now here's where, yes. So now in your personal life, where this can get you is you will hold back and you won't say what you really feel. And I'm gonna just tell you right now, that's a form of dishonesty. It's a form of dishonesty to pretend to feel or agree or go along with someone else's way of being or viewpoint or whatever when you don't. You know in your core, you're like, that ain't right. Don't front. You don't have to be rude. And sometimes it isn't, it is, the best thing to do is to stay silent, right? Because sometimes it's not worth it. It's like, there's no need for me to speak up. Who cares? But sometimes you do need to speak up, because in your relationships, especially in our romantic relationships with men, if we're kind of in that beginning dating phase, we need to be keeping it real. Once the relationship has got some momentum and is established, because like I said in my video yesterday, if he's going to marry you, he ought to know who she is. Because what's not going to happen and have you end up happy is you pretending to be one way, y'all get married, and then the real you comes out. And then he's like, whoa, what is this? You wouldn't want him to do that. So don't you do that. Don't you pretend to be the person you think other people want you to be in order for them to feel good about who they are. Be you. And guess what? If they roll off of you, that's fine, because birds of a feather flock together. You will attract the women, the men, the relationships, the connections that are on your same wavelength, that excite you, that bring you joy and happiness and fulfillment, and where you don't feel like you have to explain everything that you have to say, to where you don't feel like they don't get me, to where you don't feel like, oh, I have to, water this down, or watch how I say this, or oh, they're going to take this the wrong way, or oh, no. Listen, the closer your circle becomes, the people that are the closest to you ought to be the ones that really know the real you and love you anyway. Okay? So if you don't have anybody that you can be 100 with, that can't handle all of you, then of course don't be all of you with them, but reevaluate where they are in your life. Okay? They can still be a relationship and a friendship, but the people that are in your inner circle, they got to get you. Because if they don't get you and understand you and support you and speak encouragingly to you, then they're just going to feed into all of the negative things that you already say and do and think about yourself, in the overthinking, in the browbeating, the second guessing, the self-doubt. They'll totally play into that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they know, they can see what's good about you. And they know that that's something that they don't have. And so in order to make themselves feel better about who they are, they begin to tear you down, diminish you. And I call those types of people levelers. Because they have no sense of who they are, they compare themselves to others. And then that's how they determine who they are. And so when they feel like they've met someone who, is bigger or better than them, what they begin to do then is to tear them down. And that makes them feel better about who they are. And so if you have any levelers in your life, you can feel it. It's a real icky energy. You can feel it when somebody's judging you and trying to find something wrong with you so they can say something or feel better about themselves or make you feel whatever. The levelers, you have to phase them out, okay? Put them in the acquaintance category, because you can't help them until they decide to help themselves. But anyone who is feeding into your negative thinking, you want to really seriously reevaluate if that's a person that you want to continue to have a close personal relationship with. But the fact is, again, stop beating yourself up. You're not a bad person. You don't have bad motives. You're doing your best. And here's what I want you to know. Your best actually is good enough. Gasp. Because you're continuing to grow and improve. And it's a never-ending journey. None of us are perfect. So it's like, hey, but just do your best. And let that be it. And get into action. And do whatever it is that you need to do. Take risks. And stop being afraid. And stop overthinking. And stop equating assertiveness with rudeness. They're not the same. Take the volume on your voice and turn it up. Crank it right on up. Because if you tend to be quiet, crank it up. If you tend to be loud, crank it up. But maybe you can make it a little more palatable. Because again, I'm not talking about being brash or harsh. I did a post on that a few days ago that sometimes some people have this idea that speaking your mind or keeping it real needs to be harsh. Yes, absolutely, Jenny. Yes, your best is good enough, and there is always room to grow for all of us. But in that, here's what else I want you to know, Jenny, is that each and every one of us is blessed with gifts and talents and abilities. And here's the thing, we know what they are. But a lot of times we don't play into them, or we hold back, or we keep them hidden because we're afraid that if we put ourselves out there, we're going to be criticized, judged, teased, or made to feel bad about ourselves or about what we're trying to do or who we think we are. You know, you hear that like, who do you think you are? It doesn't matter who I think I am, does it? Because you're not in my mind. You don't live in my head. I can think whatever I want to about myself. And I can think I'm fabulous. You don't have to agree. What matters is how I feel about me, right? Because I'm the one that's with me 24/7, who is constantly talking to me. So I think I need to be the one that thinks I'm pretty awesome. Or, you know, I'm going to go off the deep end, which is where most of, I would say not most, because I can't speak for all women, but many women struggle because they tend to dwell in that negative zone when it comes to how they view themselves and how they treat themselves and how they speak to themselves. Just that overthinking, questioning, whatever. And again, it totally takes the rug out from under your confidence, because you can't feel good about yourself. You can't embrace your power. You can't stand up confidently if you don't feel good about who you are. If you are actually the one that's in the background of your mind teasing and speaking negatively about yourself. Am I making sense? Drop an emoji in the comments and let me know if I'm making sense. And feel free to drop in some comments and questions too. Hey, Style to Impact. Thanks for hopping on. We're just talking about how overthinking really is the great saboteur of confidence. And I know that you help women business owners to really learn how to dress in a way that exudes the image that they want to portray, to be able to actively promote clients and brand themselves. And so you totally understand how this overthinking can even come into play when it comes to how we dress ourselves. Because if we're constantly in the habit of browbeating our bodies and thinking, oh, I'm so fat, I'm so this, I'm so negative, I'm so that, then we're not going to be excited to pick out an outfit to wear. And we're certainly not going to be happy to get on camera or in front of a camera. Am I right? So I'm sorry, I don't know your first name. I just know your Instagram name, but I've seen your posts. And so I know what it is that you really try to help women work through. And so I'm speaking into the kind of the reasons behind the trepidation there to be confident, to own your power, to step into the woman that you are with your original thoughts and your gifts and your talents and abilities, and just be Salita. Did I say, I hope I said that right. Salita, welcome and thank you for hopping on. And yes, so, you know, I just want to, again, encourage you to stop beating yourselves up. Stop overthinking. And I know that's easier said than done. That's like, oh, like for myself, I need to exercise. You know, I'm getting back into it, whatever, postpartum. Saying, oh, I'm going to exercise. That's not going to stop not exercising, you know, and going to bed. That's not going to do it. I get that. So I can tell you to stop this way of being. And you're like, oh, that's all Jamila just had to tell me and I'm cured. No, that's not how it works. But a great place to start, I would say, is when you catch yourself in the moment. Yes, exactly, Salita. Confidence is the deciding factor to get the results we want. Yes, because if we're not confident in who we are, then we're not going to show up in relationships ready to truly connect with someone on an authentic level, because we're showing up as the person we think they want us to be, or the person we think we need to be in order to have someone to match up with us. Or in our business, we're afraid to put ourselves out there because we don't feel confident in who we are and what we stand for and what we're doing. And so we're afraid of that judgment or that criticism or somebody questioning us or whatever. And so we shrink back and we shrink back. And the more we shrink back, the less impact we're able to have. The less people are able to benefit from what it is that we have to offer. You know what I mean? So this overthinking plays out in so many ways. This inability to own our power and be confident can really affect us in so many ways. The representative, yes. And I even so in my upcoming masterclass, which is next Wednesday, June 30th at 7, and you can register by clicking the link in my bio at Coach Jamila LV. In there, you say representative, I say mask. And here's what's important to remember about the mask is because the mask is not real, it can't grow. You have to get back in touch with who you are and water that seed, and from that place grow and become and transform and emerge and own and be confident, right? Now, there is false confidence that can come from the right shade of lipstick and a great pair of heels and you strutting your stuff. I get that. Nothing wrong with feeling good, nothing wrong with looking good. But when it's from here, and it goes like that, everybody can feel it. And everybody gets touched by it. And the right people will be drawn to it and like, hey, I like that. And the wrong people will be repelled by it and be like, well, they can their way right on ski-doodly dootin', right on up out of your life or whatever, because they're not really there to cheer you on and be there for you and support you in what it is that you're trying to do. So did anybody else have any questions or comments? You can drop them in there. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this live, but I wanted to hop on because right now because coaches, we have coaches. In order to be a good coach, you need to remain coachable. And so I will participate in group programs. I've also worked one-on-one with coaches for myself. And so I can see the struggles that other women have in even what they're trying to do for their businesses, how they can get really stuck because they're just overthinking the details and trying to get it exactly right. And like I said, I'm guilty of it too. It's something I had to undo and unblock. But in this upcoming masterclass next week on Wednesday, we are going to talk about getting back in touch with yourself. We're going to talk about uncovering your original joys. So really getting in touch with what were those gifts and talents and abilities that you had that you kind of lost along the way because life happened, right? Work, school, right? Your creativity got snuffed out. Then also we're going to talk about forgiving yourself, because the browbeating, the self-doubt, all of those negative ways of being, what's behind them is you won't cut yourself a break. You just really are hard on yourself and you just won't let anything slide. And so we have to learn how to forgive ourselves, okay? And so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about shifting from fear into confidence, really coming to understand and know and learn about how to own our power and step into the woman that we're becoming, that we're growing into, and feeling good about it, okay? And also in the masterclass, I'm going to be providing details on my new group program that I'm launching on July 1st. And so if you're at the masterclass, you can find out more there. But this group program or this masterclass is based on the principles, and I'm actually taking real exercises from my program and doing them during the masterclass. So here's one thing you need to know about me is if you ever come to one of my masterclasses, if you ever come to one of my clubhouse rooms, and sometimes if you even just watch one of my videos, you need to have a paper and pen because you're coming to work, because I want you to have an aha, a breakthrough, a yeah moment, okay? Because that's just who I am. You don't get to come around me and be in my space and not be affected in some way positively. That's my goal. That's always my goal. So I want to thank you ladies for hopping on and joining me here. Feel free to DM me if you have any questions. You can click the link in my bio to register for my free masterclass. Next week it's called Who Am I Anyway? And then you can also, if you're interested, schedule a free call with me to have a consultation if you would like to explore what working together might look like. And that's a no pressure call. Basically you're just going to kind of tell me your story. We'll get to the bottom of it and then really see if working together makes sense, or you can at least find out what it is that I do and if I'm able to help you. All right. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you here. Take care.